And before traveling to Britain, President Zelenskyy made a stop right here in Berlin, his first visit to Germany since the Russian invasion of Ukraine began early last year. After their talks today, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz repeated his country's pledge to support Ukraine for as long as necessary. And there were actions connected to those words. Yesterday, Germany announced a new package of military aid worth more than 2.7 billion euros. All of that for Ukraine. Well, for more on this, I want to bring in now here at the big table, Raphael Bosang from the German Institute of International and Security Affairs. Good to see you here. Good to have you in person for a change. What do you make of this whirlwind tour for President Zelenskyy, but particularly the promises and the aid that he picked up here in Germany?
Well, I think there are two major objectives here. I mean, the one is, of course, still getting more military aid on the table. While this offensive might start any moment or is already underway, we don't really know. And he said it repeatedly that there are, of course, many things coming in, but there is a few elements, particularly the fighter jets, that are still something under negotiation. And so I think that's one of the major objectives. The other, of course, is the upcoming summit, the next NATO summit in Vilnius. And he's been obviously beating the drum for a major decision for there to be made, while, for example, Scholz again said, well, this is the old decision in 2008 and we're in the process. No clear signal yet. I think that's the other agenda.
But do you think I guess the foundation is being laid now for an announcement of fighter jets one day sooner rather than later?
Well, unfortunately, I can't really give you an insight behind the scenes, but it sounds like that it's coming close. I mean, we've also heard actually Macron on top saying now they're going to start training pilots without making commitment exactly which planes and that they're going to be planes delivered. But previously, there was a visit to the Netherlands already some weeks ago where the Netherlands were considering F-16. So I think it's probably just a matter of time. However, even if this decision is made, it will take a few months. So for the next offensive, it's not really on the table.
I want to bring us back to Germany. If I understand correctly, with this announcement that was made yesterday, Germany now leads all European countries when it comes to military aid given to Ukraine. They're number two. They're just following the United States now. That's quite a metamorphosis that we have seen when you compare Germany today to where it was in February, March of last year.
I mean, that's the line of the German government that, you know, we took our time, but we made this because we needed the coordination with our allies. And now that we're on track, we are reliable, we really deliver. Maybe you remember that period when, you know, Germany was really criticized for not deciding upon the tanks. And then they decided, and the other governments who'd been really pushing Germany then said, oh, well, we can't really deliver. So this is the line from Scholz to say, when we're saying we're doing it, we're doing it. However, of course, there is also this kind of other perspective saying that, well, it is indeed now the largest package from Europe, but Germany is also the largest economy in Europe. And compared to the GDP, still Poland and some other Baltics are doing more. So that's kind of the relative standard of judgment.
How central would you say then that Germany has become in securing European backing for Ukraine?
Well, it is still the biggest and economically most powerful state in Europe. And yes, I mean, it is absolutely central in the sense of this long-term perspective, and not only militarily, but also for the long-term questions of EU enlargement, for reconstruction, for, of course, also 1 million Ukrainian refugees that are housed here. So on all those fronts, of course, Germany is utterly essential. And particularly, as I said before, with enlargement, there are few other champions other than Poland who really want to make this happen.
Yeah, champions. I wonder what happens as the United States gets closer to that election next year. And, you know, we're already hearing from Donald Trump, for example. We've heard from Ron DeSantis, possible candidates, what they would or would not do. And it doesn't sound good for Ukraine. Is that going to bolster Germany's role as being basically the clearinghouse here for aid?
Well, we're not happy about that, of course. And it is a little bit early to really say what's, you know, rhetoric and reality in the US elections. But yes, absolutely. I mean, we're all aware that we can't rely all the time on the US and that we should step up our efforts and be really the long-term guarantors. And Germany is doing more. However, at the same time, we also know Germany is not ready yet on all fronts. So, for example, when we're talking about security guarantees before potential NATO accession, who's going to do it? I mean, there is still obviously necessary participation of Britain, the US, and France. And whether Germany is going to be an actor to make the security guarantee, well, we'll see.
And when I look at where the German government stands in terms of its commitment to helping Ukraine and compare that to what the polls tell us the German public thinks, these two things don't reflect each other, do they?
Well, I mean, it always depends on how you phrase the question. And I mean, what I've seen is that there hasn't been a fundamental transformation yet of the whole of German public opinion. However, also the real vocal protests have subsided. And I think there is an acceptance, at least an acceptance, let's say, for those deliveries. But we also see that Germany, definitely in public opinion and also in various parties, is not ready to go the next step with fighter planes or even more offensive weapons. So in that sense, the UK is still a pace setter with this cruise missiles and new drones and so on and so forth. So I think Germany tries to play the solid role, the long-term role, and not the pace setter role.
Yeah, I think some Tories will be glad to hear you say that about the UK tonight. Raphael Bossong with the German Institute of International and Security Affairs. Mr. Bossong, as always, we appreciate your time, your insights. Thank you.